Hello, hello. How are you today?
Good morning.
Yeah, so for those of you who do not know Mike Proctor is the sales manager of the amazing Whistle Realty Group out in San Diego. So thank you so much for being on here today.
Oh, this is awesome. I dig the invitation. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, so I guess to start off, tell us just a little bit of your backstory, what your role is, how you got started, and all that good stuff.
So I am the sales manager for the Whistle Realty Group here in San Diego. I handle everything from recruiting to onboarding to day in and day out training, negotiations, scripting, deal doctoring. I get contracts and I make sure they're put together correctly, that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty much like whatever Kyle wants to have me do is what I do. Take that off of his plate so he can go and be the creative genius that he is. But yeah, that's pretty much my role here with the team. And then how I got started, with Whistle or just in general in real estate?
You had to have an interesting backstory. So tell us your backstory and kind of what prompted everything and moving into real estate.
Okay. So I ran health clubs for 11, 12 years. And here locally in San Diego, I was in charge of about 14 different stores. And then things were going really well. And they transferred me out to Florida, your neck of the woods.
Nice.
And I grand opened 2 stores out there. And we were just doing exceptionally well. And ended up coming back to San Diego, run another store out here. And I never thought I would leave the health and fitness industry. God, it was super fun. I got to be in a gym every day, all day. Yeah. And I was helping people lose weight and gain muscle and achieve goals. It was so cool. And fast forward a little bit, and I get in a really bad motorcycle accident. And like the whole left side of my body, I couldn't use for, I don't know, about 3 months. I had road rash really bad on my arms. So I couldn't bend my arms to like feed myself or change my clothes. Like I had to keep my arms straight, like zombie. And my left quadricep detached from my knee, which is bad apparently. So I was stuck on my couch for weeks. I couldn't go upstairs. We had just gotten a brand new bed. I was pissed. But so I'm laying on my couch, and I went from working, 60 plus hours a week, where I was at the gym, I was at work 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 5 days a week, and then half a day on Saturday. And then I went to just sitting around at home all the time, and I got reintroduced to my family because, at the time I had 3 kids and my wife. And when I was working at the gym, all those hours, my thought was my role for this family is to provide and protect. That's pretty much it. If I'm scratching a paycheck and everybody's got food in their belly, then I've done my job as a dad. Well, as I'm laying on the couch and they're feeding me and changing my clothes and just waiting on me and loving me, I realized I have some really cool human beings here, and I want to be a part of their life and not just pay for them having a life. So I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I don't think I'm going to go back to work. And she's a badass. So she was like, okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right. I'm like, high five, put a ring on the right one. So she handled the workload, and I became an at-home dad, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. So I'm doing the at-home dad thing, and fast forward a couple months, and I'm like, I think I can do more. Like I put him to school, and I could only play so many video games. So I was like, I don't want to lose the at-home dad thing. I love the ability to take them to school, pick them up from school, try to help them with their homework. that kind of stuff. And then I saw an ad on Facebook with a local realtor that was like, "Hey, you ever thought about real estate? Blah, 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 blah." And I was like, "That's kind of a cool idea."
Yeah.
So I told my wife, I'm like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna get my license." And as she does, she goes, "Okay." So got my license, and I hung it with the first brokerage that I ever heard of, which was that guy that I saw on Facebook. And it was with Keller Williams, and I capped my first year that I was with him.
Yeah.
And, I was doing good production, and I got a phone call from Kyle Whistle, and he was like, "Hey, let's go grab a beer and talk about making your business my business," because I was doing a lot of business in his neck of the woods. And at the time, something that I like to do is on weekends, I would go to open houses that other realtors were throwing. Number one, I wanted to see their inventory. But number two, I wanted to see how they were doing open houses. Because I knew the Whistle team was killing it. They were doing more production than anybody that I was around. And I was like, okay, there's a secret sauce here. Like, they're doing something other people aren't. And from my experience training and developing agents in the gym, I knew that it wasn't like magic, right? Whatever they were doing is duplicatable and replicatable. So I would go to their open houses. Well, his agent started going, "Hey, this guy Mike keeps coming to our open houses." So Kyle was like, "Okay, well, I'll just bring him on board." So I went, had lunch with him, and he broke down how his team works and what he does. And I was like, I think you're full of shit. Because it just seemed too good to be true. Because it was all training based and education based and agent focused. And I was like, no way. Like, I'm used to a brokerage where it's like, you kiss the ring, right? Like, there's a broker, and you pay homage, and you pay a lot to the broker. So I made the shift, and it was everything he said it was going to be. And I'm getting trained and challenged and educated and pushed, and I'm super competitive. So being amongst other agents that are like crushing it, I'm like, okay, I can do that. I can do that. I can do better than that. And it just blossomed into where it is now. And I'd lay down in traffic for Kyle at this point. I love the guy to pieces.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen him speak at town. Like, my first experience with him was seeing him speak at a Town Ferry event a few years ago. And he's just, everything about his energy and who he is, like it's contagious, right? Like, I was like, as we're sitting there, I'm like, I got to find this guy on Facebook. Like, just because he speaks with, I think you just know when people are genuine. When he speaks with such like passion for truly like people, not just.
Well, it's funny because I've learned so much from Kyle in so many different ways, but the biggest lesson that I've learned from Kyle is it's okay to unapologetically be yourself. Mm-hmm. In every single realm of your life, just be you, right? Like, I've gone to listing appointments with him, and he is the exact same human being at a listing appointment as he is as that dude that's holding a beer on a Tom Ferry stage. Yeah. Like, he is that guy 100%. And I think we as agents have this concept where it's like, I have to have my agent face on, and I have to have my realtor persona, and then I'm going to be personal when I'm not being a realtor, right? And he showed me that, no, that's not the right way to go about it, because you're going to attract, like what Tom says, you're going to attract your tribe, right? You're going to attract the type of client that's going to vibe with you, that you're going to want to work with. Right. And there's plenty of them out there. And if you're trying to play these two different roles of like professional realtor and then you when you're not a realtor, it's going to be so stressful and draining, you know, and it's like you said, it's not genuine. So
I think
yeah,
that's the biggest challenge that realtors face. And I think, we just have like this persona, like everybody thinks you have to like always, I don't know. I mean, I'm not always put together. Right? I've got 3 kids. We're running a team. I'm still in production. There are days that it is not pretty. Today it was actually one of them this morning. Like my whole day, like, thought I was going to have this whole plan. And I'm like, you know what? Just got to roll with it. It's not going to be that way today. But, so there's been plenty of times, like I'll have clients call me and they're like, hey, I really want to see this house. I'm like, that's cool. I'll take you to see the house. But I just left my kids' football practice. I'm disgusting, but I'm going to show up like this. Like
totally.
my life. Like if you want to see,
don't judge me.
like, no judgment, please. Like, but honestly, most of the time they're like, oh, thank God. Because I didn't want to have to get changed and dressed up to come see, they felt like they had to like.
Well, that's awesome because you can be you. And they're like, oh, Jen's awesome. Jen's got
whatever. And
right?
like, I had a client, she was a repeat client, and I feel so bad. Like she's the sweetest lady, and her deal went so sideways at closing. The sellers didn't move out.
Oh.
You show up and they are still there. She has an elderly mother that lives with her. She's a single mom, has her kids, her dogs, all in the car ready to go. So I call my husband. I'm like, we're moving this girl today. Like literally, we start calling people. We got people in there. We got the sellers out. We helped load their truck, unload her moving truck. This is a Friday night, not what I thought I was doing on Friday night. Luckily, there's a place like across the street that was selling gallon margaritas. So I show up with gallon margaritas. Like life today. Like that's just how, like that's just how we are with our clients. It's just authentic.
Totally.
Like
that's rad.
I'll bring you alcohol. I don't know what else to do. Yeah. But no, it's awesome. So you were doing your production. Obviously, Kyle got you to come over there. So then you were with him through the whole transition, right? From
totally.
An indie broker and independent broker, had his own. I mean, honestly, he was crushing it. When I saw him go to EXP, and I'm going to tell you, and I saw him go to EXP. Saw Tammy Pack go to EXP. Like all these people I admired that I would pay to go to.
She's so awesome.
Yeah, like I would like. I mean, these are people that I would literally just pay to go hear them speak, right? And I see them going, and I'm like, okay, something's happening over here. I need to be paying attention. And then a friend of ours in the Orlando market, Veronica Figueroa, I saw her go. I'm like, okay, we got to make some phone calls. Like we got to figure this out. So tell me from your perspective, right? Being an agent and a sales manager, when Kyle said to you, let's make this jump, what were your thoughts? What were your expectations and that whole situation?
So it may be a little different from my perspective because Kyle is such an innovator, and he is, like, in his own words, he likes to be on the bleeding edge, right? Not the cutting edge, but the bleeding edge where it hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
And he has such a forward focused vision of trying to understand where the market is, where it's going, and just this evolution of our industry. So when he said, hey, this is what we're doing, I'm like, cool. Right? Like, okay, boss.
Yeah.
And then when I started getting exposed to what EXP provides for us from a managerial standpoint, the amount of resources that I then could tap into and I had access to were so much more than what I had before. Yeah. The amount of people like you that I could tap into and be like, hey, you're running a team. How do you do this? How do you handle this? What kind of system do you run for this? What CRMs have you used? And like, there's the saying where it's like, what is it? A fool learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from others' mistakes, right? Yeah. This immediately allowed you to become wise because the volume of human beings that you could tap into and go, hey, what worked for you? Oh, okay. And then what worked for you? Oh, okay. And I know some people might think like, oh, well, you have that at every brokerage. And I don't agree because not every brokerage is as focused on this sharing of knowledge and rising the bar, right? Like we are in completely different markets, but we're a part of the same ecosystem. and you are as committed to my success as I am to yours.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have something that I'm like, oh my God, I totally didn't do this right, or this CRM was garbage, or we tried this and it was amazing, I'm going to shout it from the rooftops to everybody within our ecosystem. And that's what I got exposed to immediately when we made the shift over to EXP. And the trajectory of our training and our agents' ability to retain and disseminate this new knowledge was just immediate. And that was the biggest thing that I found that was really, valuable to me.
I now being a part of it, same thing. You just want to shout it from the rooftops for everybody to hear, because I've never experienced something like this. Like I said, like I would go pay to conference. I didn't know Kyle. I don't, Tammy, and I still don't know them like that well. It's just, I know of them. We're in the same group, but like here I am, like I reached out to you and, I'm like, okay, like this is awesome. I want to talk to him. I want to hear what they're doing. We've looked at hiring a sales manager role. Like, what does that look like? How do you structure that? It's amazing to be able to like be a part of that network. Before I would pay thousands of dollars to watch them stand on stage, take my little notes, and everybody has been so collaborative. I know one of my team members jumped on the phone with Mark Pattison not too long ago because he had a question, and he took his call and helped him.
Yeah,
you can't even, I can't even express to you the amount of just love and support you feel being a part of this brokerage. And the thing that blows my mind is like, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, because, you hear that. And a lot of times, you were saying like, you can be at other brokerages. I'm not saying, I don't want to knock any brokerages. I don't want to tell anybody that they're bad, but a lot of times when you're successful, it gets lonely. You rise up and you get to a point where you feel like you don't have any of those resources. You don't have that support. They try, but it's a very narrow mindset. And I feel like being a part of this has opened my eyes. It's made my goals even bigger than I ever imagined.
Yeah. Well, it's all a matter of what's in it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Really, right? Because in your traditional brokerage model, if you're an agent and I'm an agent in the same brokerage and you're crushing it, that doesn't do anything for me. Right? Like literally, like good for you. And I experienced this prior to being with Whistle. Is I would be in the office and I'd be busting out phone calls. Now I didn't have my own office, so I was in like the bullpen area, right? And the general dynamic was everybody else that wasn't in their own office, that was like me sitting in the bullpen or whatever, most of them were frustrated and upset that this other agent was doing business and that one just gets referrals. And I'm like, well, just pick up the phone, like go find business.
Yeah.
Right. Where in this ecosystem, I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting direct messages from agents that are like, hey, I'm not performing like I should. What can you recommend that I do? I've seen some of your content. I've seen some of Kyle's content. What are you guys doing for this type of prospecting?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, that's the culture that this company is built on, because we as agents, the better you do, the better and the stronger it makes our brokerage, right? It's not just a me mentality, it's an us. And I really dig that, because I come from a team sports background. I currently coach wrestling. So like any kind of like team aspect, I'm like, yes.
Well, and I think like we were actually kind of talking about it before we got on the call. If you ever want to get better at things, right? It's like, like that whole team mentality. And my husband says this all the time. He's always like, the way he always associates everything is a sports. And if you want to get better, you have to play with the best.
Totally.
And it totally levels you up. Like I feel excited all the time for, I'm not going to say, I got a little bored. I'm not going to lie, right? I got a little bored. You start doing well, you're doing business. It starts feels like you're grinding the same thing every day. And I feel excited all the time now about what we can do, what the future looks like. And just even this company, like it's funny when we came over, we're very, I don't want to say impulsive, but we're very quick decision makers. So we were like sitting there and they kept wanting to talk to us about this. They wanted to talk to us about the stock options. They wanted I was like, yeah, I don't care about any of that. Like, I don't want to hear about it. Like, this is what I want. This is what I need. Let's do it. And now we're like, I mean, I'm glad that all the other stuff was there because I was like, dang, we joined and it was like not even $7 a share. So
Yahtzee.
yeah, that was kind of a nice little bonus, but that's really how we looked at it. We came over literally for the people. That was it. We saw the people and how much people were pouring into us even before we came over, and how much, they opened their playbooks to us before we even were officially here. And I was like, that trusting and that collaboration was just phenomenal. And I just wish I wish you just you want to grab everybody and be like, you don't understand. There's a better way. Just follow us. Come over.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like, constantly have those feelings where it's like, okay, I respect your decision, but there's such a better option for you.
I mean, we came over literally like 2 weeks pre-COVID.
Oh my goodness.
Like, so our biggest hesitation was that it's like, oh, it's this virtual brokerage. It was so different, right? It's very different. So it was scary in that sense. And we're like, well, we don't know how we're going to feel about this. And then COVID happened. I was like, well, no matter what, you have to get over it. Like, it's good.
Now everybody's a virtual brokerage.
Good.
We actually know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But it was honestly such a blessing because a lot of people were scrambling and everything was there in place, and they had the concierge team that's transitioning us over. And I was like, it was flawless. Like, they really, really made it great. Now, how many people are on Kyle's team now? Like, how many people are you managing?
We have 40.
40. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, so, it's like herding cats.
So when you guys made the decision to come over, was everybody on board? How many people came with you? Did some people stay?
No, there was a mass exodus. There was a handful of agents that weren't on board with making the shift. Okay. And they were, in my opinion, nearsighted and couldn't see the big picture. And we were okay with it, because it's all about growth. And if we're not growing, we're dying. That's actually one of our core beliefs. Yeah. So if your core beliefs aren't in line with what ours are, then high five, like, best of luck. I really hope you do well, but it's not going to be with us, right? Yeah. So yeah, there was a handful of agents that just weren't on board with it, and that's fine. And that's where Kyle and I sat down and really dialed in what our recruiting strategy was going to be in terms of adding, the right agents to our team, not just recruiting to EXP, but to our team. Yeah. And we came up with our avatar and like what we were looking for in an agent, and what our core beliefs and values are, and how those agents should align with those. And, we really hired towards culture as opposed to production. Right, because I can teach somebody what to say, when to say, how to say. I can't teach somebody to be a good person. I can't teach somebody to be a relationship agent rather than a transaction-based agent. That's how somebody's based. So we really adjusted our training and our recruiting process, and we've built it back up to where we're at about 40 agents, with the expectation that we want to get larger. We have a 5-year goal of hitting 1,000 transactions.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've got some big goals. It's kind of exciting.
So I want to ask you now, do you guys still have, because you guys are completely virtual now, or are you guys meeting in an office? Like, how does that work?
So because we were a brokerage before, we had 2 offices as it was. So we've kept those offices, which is nice. It's nice to have our own offices that we can go to. So yeah, we do have 2 office spaces, but it's not mandatory for anybody to be in the office at any given time. Okay. And over COVID, I mean, we've done everything via Zoom. But yeah, prior to COVID, we were using Zoom for our morning huddles as it was. So our entire team was already like, okay, we're getting on Zoom. Like, we all knew how to use it and what it was all about. Okay. So after COVID, we just put all of our trainings and all of our meetings on Zoom, as opposed to just the one-off meetings. So,
I
but
know
yeah.
thing that was like a big hesitation of ours, but then also there's a couple of agents that we've spoken to who have been interested in coming over to EXP, but that's their biggest fear. Their fear is the not having the office and also feeling like they can recruit to their team from the office. So because, you know, they're part of brokerages. So how do you think, like, what do you, I'm trying to think of how to phrase the question. Like, what do you think the best like method is for agents that are in that situation? Like if you, for recruiting, like strategies.
Right. So when that's come up before, when I've had conversations with agents, uh, and their concern with making the shift over to EXP is, you know, I'm not going to get an office space. Well, there's a couple different options, right? Obviously, we have Regis, right? And I know here in San Diego, there's 22 different Regis places that they could go to, which is ample, right?
Yeah.
Quite a lot of options with attending the Regis workplaces. You could just rent your own small little office space, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's just you don't need much room, right?
Yeah.
I've heard of and I know of lenders here locally that have offices in their office that they're like, oh yeah, you could just use that office. So I would encourage anybody that's watching this that's thinking about making the move and that's their hang up, hit up your preferred lender. And if you don't have a preferred lender, get a preferred lender, right? And lean in on that lender and say, hey, if I partner with you exclusively, will you pick up an office space for me? Right? If we think a little outside the box, you can still get everything you want. Right? You can have your cake and eat it too, but it just takes some collaboration and thinking a little bit outside the box, because it's not all just you have to get the office space. There's other ways to get it.
Yeah.
Right? Or I like me, I'm working from home, right? I have an office here from home. And prior to going into my sales manager role, because as a sales manager, I would go into the office every day. But prior to this, when I was just in production, I never left my home office. I would make 300 phone calls a day just sitting in my home office, right? I have MTV or something on TV in the background, and I'd just be cranking out phone calls. You know, some people can get after it at home, some people can't. And if you're one of those that can't, I promise you can find a way to get an office space that's either going to be really inexpensive or not cost you anything, right? So your title, your escrow, and your lender partners, they want to have you productive. They want you in production. So if they can do something to help you with that, I promise you, lean in on them and collaborate with them. They can help you.
Yeah. And now as far as just that goes, so as far as the team goes, do you, so you said you guys are already used to working things, you know, pretty virtually. As far as recruiting, what do you think was, I guess, what was the biggest challenge and biggest success that you guys had recruiting and rebuilding your team?
Wow. Biggest challenge was really identifying a systematic process for onboarding.
Okay.
Right? Because prior to me taking the role as the sales manager, because I took the sales manager role shortly after we made the transition into EXP.
Okay.
And that was one of the big reasons why Kyle wanted a sales manager, is because he wanted to spend a lot more time focused on his EXP recruiting, right? And he was doing a lot of traveling, and with that, it was like the absent father syndrome. The team didn't have somebody to help guide them. So that was a big reason why he wanted the role. And when we sat down and really identified what our avatar was and what our interview process was going to look like, right? Because prior it was Kyle would sit down with them, and if he liked them, they were on the team.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. Like, I've done thousands of job interviews, and I know that's not the right way to do it. So, I started sitting down and I built out a behavioral based question interview for all the agents that were first coming in. And then that ended up becoming, now we have what's called Spark Hire. So whenever an agent's interested in becoming part of the team, we send them this video interview link. And I have 5 scripted questions that they see my smiling face asking them the question. and then their camera and microphone turns on their laptop or on their phone, and they record their answers back. And then Kyle, myself, and all the rest of the management and admin team, we can review these interviews at our own times, right? So it could be 10 o'clock at night, and I'm going to watch 3 interviews. And then I put notes on what my thoughts are. And the next morning at 7 a.m., Kyle can watch them, right? So we don't all have to come together and spend that time.
Yeah.
They can submit their first interview, and we all individually review them, put in our notes about what our thoughts are. And then once I've got a general consensus, then I schedule a second interview with myself and my assistant, right? So her name's Erin. So she and I will sit in on an interview, and we do a full behavioral-based interview process. And it's also a matter of finding out what their wants and needs are from the brokerage or team they want to join, right? I want to make sure that our expectations align. Once they pass that second interview, then it's a third interview with just me where I'm setting expectations. Nice. And then I ask if that's in line with what they really do want to do and whether they can commit to those expectations. Yeah. You know, but that I think is the biggest success we have had, is designing a systematic way of onboarding and interviewing, because it was just so shoot from the hip and like gut feeling. And you get those type of results with that type of a process where it's like, I wonder what's going to happen with this one. And then I hope that one does good. Right. So
yeah, we just started using Spark Hire, and I love it because I think it shows their level of commitment right out the gate. Yeah. Right. Like you said, like we would be the same way, kind of like how Kyle was. Like it was very impulsive. Like, what do you think? How do you feel? It would be like, let's just meet with this person. And here's the thing, like we like people. My husband and I, we like people, and I always love people. Whenever I meet them, I was like, oh, and I think our natural behavior is to be their cheerleader. So I'm like, they're going to be great. They're going to do this and they're going to do that. And then it was like, that didn't work the way I thought. I was like, dang it. So I think that the whole Spark Hire thing made us control our emotions a little bit more. It gave me the opportunity to sit there and really see their responses and think about it. Instead of me, like you said, like having a beer with somebody or having a coffee and being like, hey, we're friends now. I like you. Yeah. Like, because that was just kind of our process. And I still like those people. Don't get me wrong. They just weren't right for my team.
Totally. Well, there's the second part of that Spark Hire that aligns with EXP, right? Where I need you to have a little tech savviness. I don't need you to be a technological engineer, right? I don't need you to like code and whatnot, but I need you to be able to facilitate a webcam. I need you to be able to navigate through this process and do it in a way that's proficient. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten emails back from potential interviewees that are like, I can't figure this out. And I'm like, great, I appreciate the opportunity. Like, this ain't going to work.
I think that's very true. And it's also, the nice thing too with EXP is that one of the things that I love is I would always have I don't know, like I always like want to help everybody. And so the nice thing with EXP though is maybe they're not the right fit for our team, but they could still be a great fit for EXP. And I can still offer them some support and not feel like I'm just like, hey, this isn't going to work, leave. Like, you know what I'm saying? I love that part of it.
So this is the cool thing, like, and it's totally in line with what you just said. So I'll do an interview with an agent, and let's say maybe they're super green. They've only done like 1 or 2 transactions, or they have never done a transaction. Well, we run at a pretty fast pace at Whistle, and it's not fair to a super green agent to just throw them in and have all these expectations on them right away from production, right? Because they just spin out of whack, and it just stress. It's bad. So like I became a mentor for EXP, and what I tell them routinely is I say, look, let's do this. Let's onboard you with EXP. I will mentor you. And after your first 3 transactions, let's reassess whether or not the team is the right avenue for you to go.
Yep. We did the exact thing. So
it's like building a bench for your team.
And it's great because it gives you kind of that buffer to see, like, because you don't know, like, and I don't ever want to turn away a brand new agent because you don't know who the next rock star is. I don't want to be that person to judge it. but yeah, so we just did the same thing. Jason and I both just got our mentorship, like the certification or whatever we had to do. And
Yeah.
let's try it out. It gives us a way to test the waters.
Yep.
Because we all we run this kind of the same way. We're all at a high level, and I'm not the super I don't know, like we're into accountability, but I'm not here to be your mom.
Totally. You're an independent business owner, and you're my business partner, and I'm going to treat you as a business partner, not an employee.
Exactly. And so that's kind of like our mindset. And we operate at an extremely high level and everything. We have 3 kids. We're busy all the time. So it's like, you want to come run with us? Like, I will take you along. But if you're not going to come running, you're going to get run over. Like, that's just how we.
Or you're going to get left behind, which is going to hurt my heart. Right. Yes. I don't want you to feel like I left you behind.
Yes.
You know, and no, I'm 100% in line with you.
Yeah, and I, like when I say run over, it's like because like you said, like we do have a lot of expectations. We run very fast, so they just get overwhelmed. They're just bombarding me with stuff.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. But Mike, I want to respect your time. I know we went a little over, but thank you so much. It was so awesome connecting with you and chatting with you about all this.
Absolutely. If there's ever anything that I can do for you guys, lean on me. That's what I'm here for.
Well, I have a couple of questions that came up that I'll reach out to you about later. So
okay. I love it.
Touch, but yeah, I really, really appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Perfect. Thanks, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, there we go.